Hey YouTubers, it's me again, Lonnie Clark, Nuts for Art or Beyond Extinction. Thank you for following me and thanks for subscribing, and thank you for spreading this reading of our book, Black Like Me. I'm not going to waste a lot of time chit-chatting on this book. It is written by John Howard Griffin. Part 1 was reading pages 1 through 16. My apologies, that was seriously long. But I didn't realize how long it was. I really liked reading. It was 40 minutes. So I'm not going to read 16 pages again. I'll probably read, I'm going to keep track of the time. Right now I'm 40 minutes into talking. So I want to keep these things to about 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. So let me just pick it up where we were. We are on page 17. The new entry is November 8th. And what year was this? 1959. That's the year, November 8th, 1959. The dark room, the streak of pale light through the transom. I woke to it several times, thinking it a long night. Then it occurred to me that there were no windows, that it might well be day outside. I dressed, took my bags, and walked down the steps. The sun glared brilliantly on Rampart Street. Traffic pushed past the lobby window. "You coming back tonight, Mr. Griffin?" the man at the desk asked pleasantly. "I'm not sure." "You can leave your bags here if you wish." "Thanks. I need what's in them," I said. "Did you sleep all right?" "Yes, fine." "What time is it?" "Little past 11:30. Damn, I think I did sleep." The world looked blurred through the window, and I waited for my eyes to accustom themselves to sunlight. I wondered what I should do, where I should go. I had a few changes of shirts, handkerchiefs, underwear in my duffel bag, and about $200 in traveler's checks and $20 in cash. In addition, I had my medicines and a month's supply of pigmentation capsules. I stepped out into the street and began to walk in search of food. No one noticed me. The street was full of Negroes. I ambled along, looking in store windows. White proprietors who cater exclusively to Negro trade stood in doorways and solicited us. "Step right in. Nice special on shoes today." "Come on in just a minute. No obligation. Like to show you a few new hats." Their voices wheedled and they smiled in counterfeit. It was the ghetto. I had seen them before from the high attitude of one who could look down and pity. Now I belonged here and the view was different. A few glances told it all. Here it was pennies and clutters and spittle on the curb. Here people walked fast to juggle the dimes, to make a deal, to find cheap liver or tomatoes that are overripe. Here was the indefinable stink of despair. Here modesty was the luxury. People struggled for it. I saw it as I passed, looking for food. A young, slick-haired man screamed loud obscenities to an older woman on the sidewalk. She laughed and threw them back into his face. They raged. Others passed them, hearing, looking down, pursing lips, struggling not to notice. Here sensuality was escape, proof of manhood for people who could prove it no other way. Here at noon, jazz blared from jukeboxes, and dark holes issued forth the cool odor of beer, wine, and flesh into the sunlight. Here hips drew the eye and flirted with the eye and caused the eye to lust or laugh. It was better to look at It was better to look at hips than at the ghetto. Here I saw a young man who carried his body with substance of a saint, stagger, glass-eyed, unconscious from the dark hole, sat down on the curb, and vomit between his feet. "Man, he can't hold it at all," someone said. I saw the sun caught in the sweaty black wrinkles of the back of his neck as his head flopped forward. "You okay?" I asked, bending over him. He nodded listlessly. "Yeah, shit. He's just gas," someone said. "He's okay." An odor of Creole cooking led me to a cafe at the corner. It was a small but cheerful room, painted baby blue. Tables were set with red checkered cloths. Except for a man at the counter who nodded as I entered, I was the only customer. A pleasant young Negro woman took my order and fixed my breakfast. Eggs, grits, bread, and coffee. 49 cents. No butter and no napkin. The man at the counter turned toward me and smiled as though he wanted to talk. I had made it a rule to talk as little as possible at first. He noticed my bags and asked if I was there looking for work. I told him I was and asked if there were any better part of town that I could get a room. "Ain't it awful?" he grimaced, coming over to my table. "You live down here?" "Yeah." He closed his eyes wearily. Light from the door struck gray in his temples. "The Y over on Dryads is about the best place. It's clean, and there's a nice bunch of fellows over there," he said. He asked me what kind of work I did, and I told him I was a writer. He told me that he often took the bus to the better parts of town where the whites live, just to get away from this place. I just walk in the streets and look at the houses. Anything just to get somewhere where it's decent, to get a smell of clean air. "I know," I sympathized. I invited him to have a cup of coffee. He told me about the town, places where I might find jobs. "Is there a Catholic church around here?" I asked after a while. "Yeah, just a couple blocks over there on Dryads." "Where's the nearest restroom?" I asked. "Well, man, now just what you want to do is piss or pray," he chuckled. Though we talked quietly, the waitress heard, and her high chortle was quickly muffled in the kitchen. I guess it doesn't hurt for a man to do both once in a while," I said. "You're so right," he laughed, shaking his head from side to side. "You're so right. Lordy, lordy, if you stick around this town, you'll find out you're going to end up doing most of your praying for a place to piss. It's not easy, I'm telling you. You can go in some of the stores around here, but you almost always got to buy something before you can ask them. And that before you can ask them to let you use the restroom, the toilet. Some of the taverns got places. You can go over to the train station or the bus station, places like that. You just have to locate them, and there's not many of them for us. The best thing is just stick close to home. Otherwise, sometimes you'll find you got to walk a half across town just to find a place." When I left him, oh yeah, we're at 8.5 minutes. Sorry about that. When I left him, I caught the bus into town, choosing a seat halfway to the rear. As we neared Canal, the street began to fill with whites. Unless they could find a place to sit themselves or beside another white, they stood in the aisle. A middle-aged woman with stringy gray hair stood near my seat. She wore a clean but faded print house dress that was hoisted to one side as she clung to an overhead pendant support. Her face looked tired, and I felt uncomfortable. As she staggered with the bus's movements, my lack of gallantry tormented me. I half rose from my seat to give it to her, but Negroes behind me frowned disapproval. I realized I was going against the race, and the subtle tug of war became instantly clear. If the whites would not sit with us, let them stand. When they became tired enough or uncomfortable enough, they would eventually take seats beside us and see soon enough it was not so poisonous after all. But to give them your seat and to let them win? I slumped back under the intensity of their stares. But my movement had attracted the white woman's attention. For an instant, our eyes met. I felt sympathy for her, and I thought I detected sympathy in her glance. The exchange blurred the barriers of race, so new to me, long enough for me to smile and vaguely indicate the empty seat beside me, letting her know that she was welcome to accept it. Her blue eyes, so pale before, sharpened, and she spat out, What are you looking at like me that for? What are you looking at me like that for? I felt flushed. Other white passengers craned around to look at me. The silent onrush of hostility frightened me. I'm sorry, I said, staring at my knees. I'm not from here. The pattern of her skirt turned abruptly as she faced the front. Wow, what a bitch. They're getting sassier every day, she said loudly. What the fuck? See, we are not used to this, folks. This book changed things. Another woman agreed and fell into conversation. My flesh prickled with shame, for I knew the Negroes rightly resented me for attracting such unfavorable attention. I sat the way I had seen them do, Sphinx-like, pretending unawareness. Gradually, people lost interest. Hostility drained to boredom. The poor woman chattered on, reluctantly apparently to lose the spotlight. I learned a strange thing, that in the jumble of unintelligible talk, the word nigger leaped out with electric clarity. You always hear it, and it always stings. And it casts the person using it into a category of brute ignorance. I thought with some amusement that if these women who only knew that what they were revealing about themselves to every Negro on that bus, they would have been outraged. I left the bus on Canal Street. Other Negroes aboard eyed me, not with anger as I had expected, but rather with astonishment that any black man could be so stupid. For an hour, I roamed aimlessly through the streets at the edge of the French Quarter. Always crowds and always the sun. On D'Urbigny Street, I had coffee with a small Negro cafe called the Two Sisters Restaurant. I worked at the Two Sisters Restaurant. I did not know it was originally owned by, it was a Negro cafe. That's awesome. A large poster on the wall caught my attention. Desegregate the buses with this 7-point program. 1, pray for guidance. 2, be courteous and friendly. 3, be neat and clean. 4, avoid loud talk. 5, do not argue. 6, report incidents immediately. 7, overcome evil with good. Wow, that is really excellent advice, isn't it? That's what we need to do. Sponsored by Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, Reverend A.L. Davis, President, Reverend J.E. Poindexter, Secretary. I walked to the same shoe shine stand in the French Quarter that I had been visiting as a white man. My friend Sterling Williams sat on an empty box on the sidewalk. He looked up at me without a hint of recognition. Shine? I believe so, I said, and climbed up on the stand. He hoisted his heavy body on his crutch and hobbled over and began to work. I wore shoes of an unusual cut. He had shined them many times, and I felt he should certainly recognize them. Well, it's another fine day, he said. Sure is. And I felt brisk strokes of his brush across the toe of my shoe. You're new in town, aren't you? I looked down on the back of his head. Gray hair kinked below the rim of the seat cap of black canvas. Yeah, just been here a few days, I said. I thought I hadn't seen you around the quarter before, he said pleasantly. You'll find New Orleans a nice place. Seems pretty nice. The people are polite. Oh, sure. If a man just goes on about his business and doesn't pay any attention to them, they won't bother you. I mean, any bowing or scraping, just, show you got some dignity. He raised his glance to my face and smiled wisely. I see what you mean, I said. He had almost finished shining the shoes before I asked, is there something familiar about these shoes? Yeah, I've been shining some for a white man. A fellow named Griffin? Yeah, he's straightened up. Do you know him? I am him. He stared dumbfounded. I reminded him of various subjects we had discussed on former visits. Finally convinced, he slapped my leg with glee and lowered his head. His shoulders shook with laughter. Well, I'm truly a son of a bitch. How did you ever? I explained briefly. His heavy face shone with delight as I had done at what I had done, and delight that I should confided in him. Excuse me, I'm going to reread that sentence. I guess the light's over there. I got to get used to this guy. I briefly explained. His heavy face shone with delight at what I had done, and delight that I should confide it to him. He promised perfect discretion and enthusiastically began coaching me, but in a guarded voice, glancing away to make sure no one could overhear. I asked him if I could stay and help him shine shoes for a few days. He said the stand really belonged to his partner, who was out trying to locate some peanuts to sell to the winos in the quarter. We'd have to ask him, but he was sure it would be all right. But you're way too well dressed for a shine boy. We sat on boxes outside the stand. Oops. Pasha. Dropped it. I guess that's almost time to quit. It's 17 minutes. Oh, where are we? Well, let's see. How far do we have to go? Maybe that's the time to quit, you guys. I don't know what page it is, but I think I'm going to quit. So let's see. Where were we? Oh, yeah. We're on page 23. Yeah, this is kind of long. It's going to go on. If I read this whole thing on this whole day's journey, November 8th, I guess, was a monumental day for him. That's when he found his partner. Wow, look at how long it goes. Look. So that'll be tomorrow night's reading. I think my angels helped me out there. Knocked the book out of my hand. Anyways, I'm going to read again tomorrow night. I'm going to post up. So this is pages 16 to 23. That's where we read. And it's the 26th, and it's about 11:30 at night. Maybe I can read better if I don't do it so late, but I got a busy life. So put your courage feet on, you guys. It's good to see you. I am going to post up another video about some opinions of mine that I'm seething about. So talk to you later. Ciao.